Answers in Genesis and Cedarville College present Answers with Ken Ham, a 12-part video series defending the Bible from the very first verse. Today's question: what is the only answer to racism? And now, Ken Ham.
In Australia, we have an Indigenous people called the Australian Aborigines. When they were first discovered, Captain Cook sailed up the East Coast in 1770. When they were first discovered, they didn't know the God of the Bible as we know, but they had some fascinating legends, Dreamtime legends. They had these legends before they ever met missionaries. I just want to read one of them to you. I've abbreviated a little bit here, but I want to read one of these Dreamtime legends to you. This is one that I must admit, the first time I read it, it really brought tears to my eyes, and I'll tell you why after we finished, or maybe you'll see why as we read it through. The first man ever to live in Australia was Berwickborn. He had been made by Biami. After establishing Berwickborn and his wife in a place that was good to live in, he put his sacred mark on a yarran tree nearby, which was the home of a swarm of bees. "This is my tree," he told them, "and these are my bees. You can take food anywhere you like in the land I've given you, but this tree, the bees and the honey they make, you must never touch. If you do, much evil will befall you and all the people who will come after you." Is this reminding you of something here? Let's go on. But one day when the woman was gathering firewood, her search carried her to Biami's tree. A brooding presence seemed to hover above her, and she raised her eyes once more. Now that she was closer to the tree, she saw the bees hovering around the trunk and drops of honey glittering on the bark. She stared at them, fascinated by the sight. She had tasted the sweet excretion only once before, but here was food for many meals. She could not resist the lure of the shining drops. Letting her sticks fall to the ground, she began to climb the tree. Suddenly, there was a rush of air, and a dark shape with huge black wings enveloped her. It was Naradan, the bat, whom Biami had put there to guard his yarran tree. Berwickborn's wife scrambled down and rushed to her gunya, where she hid in the darkest corner. The evil she had done could never be remedied. She had released Naradan into the world, and from that day onwards, he became the symbol of the death that afflicts all the descendants of Berwickborn. It was the end of the golden age for Berwickborn and his wife. You know, one of the reasons that particular story that I read to you brought tears to my eyes when I first read it was a recognition of the fact that the Australian Aborigines once had the truth about creation, the truth about the fall, but they've changed that story. They've handed it down, but the real record is in the Bible. You know, they had those stories before they met missionaries. I know I've had scientists tell me, they obviously got those stories from missionaries. That's why they sound so much like the Bible. Well, that can't be right, because you see, the stories they have start from the time of the Tower of Babel and go back through the flood, back to creation. Whereas if missionaries were preaching to them, they'd be telling them about Jesus, and you don't see those sorts of things in their Dreamtime legends. No, it makes much more sense that they had these stories, they handed them down, but they changed them, and the real record is in the Bible. You know, it's a sad fact of Australian history that the Australian Aborigines were once considered the missing links in evolution. Now why was that so? I mean, that's terrible. Well, Charles Darwin wrote a book, and the title of the book was this: "From the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favoured Races in the Struggle for Life." You see, Charles Darwin was a racist. I mean, because his evolutionary philosophy was inherently a racist philosophy. He taught that there were different races of people that evolved at different levels. He thought the Australian Aborigines, for instance, were the missing link in history.